Hello everyone and welcome back to the Forge. Now in the last video I made, we was working on the Messer sword and we all know how that ended. The sword wound up developing some cracks, eventually broke, and we're going to be back on that pretty soon. I'm actually almost back to the point I was at when we quenched the sword and got the cracks. So the next video after this one should be progression after that point. But I had some questions asked to me about the forge I use and about the wood splitter press that I have. And so I figured I'd go ahead and make a quick video about those things. We'll start here with the forge. This forge is a Majestic Forge 3-burner Knife Maker Deluxe model. It's the deluxe model because it has these little valves up here that allow you to control each burner. That's the reason I got this one, is because I looked at several models. They offer a single burner, a double burner. They offer the non-deluxe models that don't have these valves. So if you buy the 3-burner that's not the Knife Maker Deluxe, it's all 3 burners going no matter what, so forth and so on. So I bought this one because it allows me to turn it down to 1 burner for small jobs, or I can run all 3 if I'm doing forge welding on Damascus or something like that, or just trying to heat treat a sword. Now I bought this one because at the time it filled my needs. I'm getting ready to start progress on a ribbon burner forge, forced air forge, because this sucker here does love the propane. Don't get me wrong, it's great. I can make a profit with the things that I make in it using the standard barbecue pit style tanks. I run it at about 10 psi whenever I'm working for just general forging of like a railroad spike knife or just forging a regular knife in general. When I do Damascus, I have to bump it up to about 15 psi, and I have no trouble reaching welding heats at that. The inside is soft fire brick, and as you can tell over time, it has crumbled where I've scraped the insides of it. I mean, I've used this forge for going on 2 years now. It gets used every single day, so I would say probably heavy use for the things I do in it. I've got an order right now, that's what these are from, order of 100 hooks that I'm working on. So I mean, it gets put to work. And so it does get banged up, but even with that, you know, you can see the flux there in the bottom. The flux eats these bricks for lunch, so I'm going to have to replace the inside, the lining and everything eventually, but it's more than paid for itself 100 times over easy. So, like I said, I just use a standard barbecue pit tank. I run it at 10 psi for all of the regular work that I do, 15 psi for forge welding and Damascus. But if you're going to get one of these, the 3-burner, unless you're going to be doing Damascus or large products or large projects, is completely unnecessary. If you're just going to be working on regular size knives or something, the 2-burner deluxe knife maker would be more than good enough. This one was about 450 bucks. I think the 2-burner deluxe knife maker is like 200 and something, 300 and something. I think it's like 100 bucks difference between the two of them. But I mean, there it is. I welded this thing on the front, help hold these longer rods. So pretty straightforward. Not a bad little forge to start with, so it'll do the job. So if you're looking for something to start out with, it's not a bad one to use. So let's go on over and take a look at my log splitter press. Alright, this is my Franken press, as you can call it. It is just a log splitter converted to a forge press. I went this route because we already had this log splitter here on the place. The motor was wore out. One of the hoses was bad, and at the time I was actually getting ready to go on Forged and Fire, and I didn't know how that was going to end up. Didn't know if I was going to have to come back home, you know, and make something. So I wanted something that I could use in case I did. That, and I had never ran a hydraulic press in my life prior to being on the show. My brother jumped in and helped me fix this up. No, the welds may not be the best looking in the world, but they are good and solid. They serve their purpose. Nothing's cracked, nothing's broke. The thing with me is getting something in here that I could use to make money with, and to use in case I came home and had to do a finale weapon on that show. The lever's right up here. I didn't relocate it. Like I said, I wanted to get this here and to work with it. So basically, I'm ambidextrous. I can use right hand or left hand. So usually I hold I hold what I'm working on with my left hand and use my right hand to work the press up and down. The cycling rate is real good. The dies on this are made just from some pieces of old railroad track. We welded these braces in here to make sure that it didn't bend, because it was trying to be a little bit, it was a little flimsy inside of here, but these took care of that. We used pieces of this angle iron right here to cover the plates that the die is set on. I do wish that we would have went ahead and put a keeper here, but that's okay. I mean, it works good enough. I forged a lot of stuff on here. This machine has made me a lot of money and saved my shoulder a lot of wear and tear. I mean, like this month alone, I've forged probably 60 railroad spike knives, and if it wasn't for this machine, that wouldn't even be realistic. The dies slide out. They're kind of stuck in there right now because of the work, but they do slide out. I mean, you can see here how they fit underneath that. And another thing that I wished I'd have done differently is right here. You know, if you look here, you can see this opening. It's resting on some channel iron there, but it does tend to flex a little, which isn't terrible. And like I said, the welds hold great. But the reason I wished I would have went ahead and come all the way back to this piece here is because if you look at where the eye on the ram is here, it's actually over on the end of this. So it doesn't press as flat as I wished it would. But I didn't realize that till I got in here and started using it. Like I said, it works perfectly fine. It's just, if you make one, get it as close to this as you possibly can. And you don't have to go to all of the trouble that we went to with making this an upright press and everything. I know a lot of people that do knives professionally that use these as their forging press, and they leave them laying down. You know, they make a piece, an adapter that slides over the cutting head of the press right here, and they make an adapter that slides over the bottom, and that way they can actually still use it as a log splitter. I mean, you can see here where we basically just made this one into a permanent setup. You know, the cutting head that was on is actually right in here welded in. But like I said, we just built this table out of some scrap steel. These aren't 100% accurate. I mean, there is some play occasionally in this, but not too much, you know. But we did mount the motor independently. It's outside. I have this area right here normally covered with a piece of sheet metal, but I took it off so I didn't have to walk all the way around through all the bushes and show you everything. We mounted it to this old scrap table here. It's just a metal table. Put little rubber bushings underneath the motor. Like I said, when I decided to turn this into a forge press, the motor was actually shot. It was locked up. It was wore out. And so went to Harbor Freight, 89 bucks. Got a replacement motor. Works great. Direct bolt on. There was nothing we had to change. Nothing we had to adapt over. The hydraulic pump and everything. The only thing we had to do different with it was I had to get this hose here. This hose I got off of Amazon for $27. Where I live at, it's a rural area, so we don't have a lot of places that carry return hoses like this with the spring inside of it. And you want that spring because if you don't have the spring in there, it will suck the hose flat. I know that because we tried a hose without it, and it sucked the hose flat. But we got this piece because I wanted to be able to put the motor outside, because being a gas motor, you know, I don't have to worry about running it off electricity or the electricity going off and not being able to work, but you do have to worry about the exhaust fumes getting inside of the building and suffocating you. And so it's outside. Like I said, normally there's a piece of metal across here which blocks it, and the fumes just kind of go outside and do their own thing, and I'm not having to breathe them. And if the power goes out or we have a bad storm, I can continue working gas forge, gasoline engine on the press. But I mean, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot to it. Probably a little over about $180 or so, and I mean that would be the welding rods, that would be the motor, the hose, you know, just the work we put into it. It was very much worth it. I mean, it changed the way that I do my bladesmithing and my blacksmithing as a whole, because it makes things so much easier. The cool thing is that you can find these all over the place in the classifieds online, Facebook Marketplace, sometimes as cheap as $200. And I mean, we all want one of the big fancy Coal Iron Works forge presses, you know, that's $4,000 and $5,000 that are incredibly, unbelievably accurate and well built. They have the foot lever and all of that. But like I said, for this price, I can do a lot of the same stuff. I do Damascus on here, Sanmai, everything. General forging. I forged some tongs the other day. I'll show them to you here in a minute. But it, you know, as a whole, if you can find one of these, spend 80 bucks on a motor. If you got a buddy that has a welder, or maybe you're good at welding yourself, and you know, you just want to sit down one day and work on it. If you're building it just to work, I mean, if you want to show it off and you want to grind all these welds clean and everything, that's fine. I mean, that's up to you. With me, it was all about getting it in here and getting to work with it. I've made some things for it. This little deal here, I just slide over the top there whenever I'm wanting to fuller something out, or you know, get some length in something, draw something. I just made it out of some scrap steel, just a piece of round stock on there, and it does the job. You know, it's not professional grade tooling, but it does what I need it to do. But this is a 27-ton splitter. We'll actually be relocating our shop within the next year, probably around next May, and I will get to build another one of these, because this one will not be going. It would cost way too much money to get it where I'm going, and so I'll be rebuilding another one, and I'm probably going to leave it in the horizontal position and just make the pieces that slide over it and keep it outdoors to work for the most part. I may change it up in the winter time, but for the summertime, that's going to be best. But you know, we just took the hydraulic tank off. Like I said, we cut the wheels off, and we unbolted this part here, the main beam. You can see right here where the main pin went through that allowed this to stand up when it was a wood splitter. We just unbolted that, took this entire assembly here off, and we fixed it up on the lift in my brother's shop and got it situated on this makeshift table, welded it down. Then we relocated the tank. Pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's about as simple as a build as you can possibly get. Made all the difference in the world. So, let me go get those tongs and I'll show you the tongs that I made on it. Alright, here's my cluttered up workbench. Here's the tongs I made on it just a little bit. I haven't got to finish them yet. Just got that bolt stuck through there temporarily to see how they worked. I mean, not bad. It's the first pair I've ever tried to make. I wanted to practice because I'd like to do a video on them eventually. Pretty pleased with them. I got to get the rivet in there and everything, but I mean, they work good enough. But yeah, it made it a whole lot easier having that press to move the bigger portions of steel and save my shoulder and everything. So yeah, not too bad. So maybe you can find one like on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, or maybe you have a friend that has one laying around that you can get and fix up and throw a new motor on it, maybe replace the hoses and, you know, weld up some dies for it, and with a little bit of expense, you know, have a nice forge press that didn't cost thousands of dollars. But this one has made things so much easier for me. On the old channel I used to have before this new one here, I actually hand forged some swords out strictly 100% by hand, and it was a heck of a workout. It was a lot of fun, but I mean, I'm not going to complain about having this to use now. It makes things a lot easier. And the truth of the matter is, most of us do this. You know, most of you watching this channel right now probably are like me when I started out, and you do this for a hobby, and you don't have thousands of dollars to throw at equipment and machines, and this is about the best way to go when you're on a budget, because I mean, you can get these used and wore out and fix them pretty easy. But so yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, if you have more questions, those of you that asked about this, if you had any more questions, or you know, maybe you want to say, ask me something or tell me something, I mean, do it in the comments. That's perfectly fine. I'll come out here and shoot you another video if I need to. But and you know, the thing is, you could completely redo this whole thing from this setup. Lots of people do. I know Paul Pinto over on his channel has a forging press that he built that's completely different. It's more like the Coal Forge Ironworks press. And you know, if you have the time and the tools and the finances to do something like that, then you know, you may do it that way. It may take up less space in your workshop and everything, but if you're just an average run-of-the-mill guy like me, you may not even want to build this setup. You may just want to leave it laying down. And so whatever makes it easier, and whatever makes it to where you can further what you're doing, that you can grow and you can learn and become better. That's the ultimate goal. But yeah, I mean, there's the press. There's the forge. Not a bad little forge, especially for the money. But with that being said, hopefully that answered your questions. And if you would, you know, hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that subscribe button down below. Ring the notification bell to be notified of newest content when it comes out. And we'll catch you on the next one with Messer Part 3. Hopefully it don't break this time. Alright, I'll catch y'all guys later. I appreciate you watching. You have a good one. Bye-bye.